Long ago, in the heart of a growing town called Olumo, there stood a hospital that everyone knew, St. Olumo Community Hospital. From outside, it looked peaceful, almost holy. Its white walls gleamed in the sun, and its iron gates stood tall like the arms of angels guarding the sick. The people called it the place of healing, because many believed that once you stepped through its gates, you would surely come out well. But those who walked within its walls knew another name, the broken word. No one said that name aloud. It was spoken only in whispers, mostly by nurses late at night, when the hallways were empty and the lights flickered. They said the word was cursed. That sometimes, the people who entered it never left. That sometimes, the spirits of those who died there still waited for their discharge papers. But to the outside world, St. Olumo Hospital was a place of miracles, neat, clean, and filled with smiling doctors who promised life. And no one loved their job there more than Nurse Efe. She was young, kind, and full of hope. Her dream was to heal, to save lives. She had joined the hospital only 3 months earlier, fresh out of nursing school, with her white uniform always spotless and her hair tied in a neat bun. The patients loved her gentle voice. Her laughter brought calm even to those in pain. But soon, she began to see what others had learned to ignore. It started one night, when the rain fell like tiny drums on the hospital roof. F was on night duty with 3 other nurses. The corridors were dim, the air thick with the smell of disinfectant and wet earth. Somewhere, a patient coughed weakly. Another groaned. The night felt longer than usual. As she walked past the last ward, Ward 7, the one farthest from the main building, she heard a whisper. "Help me." She froze. The voice was faint, like someone calling from behind a curtain. She pushed open the door, her torchlight trembling in her hand. But the room was empty. The beds were neatly arranged, white sheets tucked in tightly. The wall clock ticked softly. The rain tapped the windows. "Hello," she said. Silence. Then again, softer, "Help me." F's heart pounded. She moved closer, shining her light across the beds. Nothing. Only the empty silence of the ward. She hurried back to the nurse station, trying to shake off the feeling. But when she sat down, she noticed something strange, the register book. Each ward had a register of patients, names, bed numbers, dates of admission. She flipped open Ward 7's book. There were only 4 names listed. But beside the last name, Olumo Daniel, there was no discharge date. No death note either. Just a line, blank. She frowned. The date of admission was 2 months ago. No one stays that long without either recovering or the other thing. The next morning, she asked her supervisor, Nurse Ijeoma, a tall woman with tired eyes and a deep voice. "Ma," F said carefully, "the register for Ward 7, there's a patient whose name is still open. Olumo Daniel. But I've never seen him." Ijeoma looked at her sharply. "Don't ask questions about old cases." "But Ma." "Listen to me, F." Ijeoma's voice dropped. "You are new here. You want to stay long, eh? Then face your work. Some things in this hospital are better left alone." That day, F said nothing more. But the word stayed with her, better left alone. Days turned into weeks. Strange things kept happening in Ward 7. One night, F found the bed sheets ruffled, though no one had slept there. Another time, the door to the ward opened by itself, and a faint smell of candle smoke filled the air. The patients in nearby wards often complained too. "Madam Nurse," one old woman said, "at night, I hear people walking in the next room. But nobody is there." F smiled weakly. "Don't worry, Mama. Maybe it's just the wind." But in her heart, she wasn't sure. One evening, after a long shift, F sat outside the hospital gate waiting for a kiki to take her home. The sun was setting, orange and soft. That was when she met Tond, a young doctor newly transferred to St. Olumo. He was cheerful, full of jokes, and always ready to help. They became friends quickly, sharing night shifts, patient rounds, and stories over cups of bitter coffee. F trusted him. So one night, when the whispers returned, she told him everything. He didn't laugh. He just listened carefully, then said, "Ward 7, you said. Let's check it together." It was a rainy Thursday night. Most of the staff had gone home. Only 2 security guards were around. The corridor to Ward 7 was quiet, the lights dim and flickering. When they reached the door, F's hands trembled. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Yes," Tan said. "Sometimes truth hides in fear." They entered. The room was cold, far colder than any other ward. The air smelled like rust and old blood. The bed stood empty. Yet the faint sound of breathing echoed around them, slow, heavy, unnatural. Then suddenly, the monitor on one of the beds blinked to life, beeping faintly. But the bed was empty. F screamed. Ton grabbed her hand. "It's just malfunction." But before he finished, the screen flashed words. "Patient, Olumo Daniel, status, awake." They stared, frozen. Then the monitor went black. That night, neither of them could sleep. The next morning, Ton went to the hospital archives. He searched for any record of Olumo Daniel, and what he found chilled his blood. Olumo Daniel had been admitted 2 months before for a minor injury. He was supposed to be discharged after 3 days. But he died suddenly during surgery. The report said cardiac arrest, but there was no signature from the attending doctor, no death certificate filed, no body released to the family. It was as if Daniel had never existed. Ton showed F the file. "What do you think this means?" she asked in a trembling voice. He looked at her, eyes dark. "It means someone erased him." "But why?" That evening, the hospital director, Dr. Baligan, summoned Ton to his office. Dr. Baligan was a man with a wide smile and cold eyes. His office smelled of polish and money. He was respected by everyone, feared by some. Rumors said he drove 2 new cars every year, though the hospital barely had enough beds. He leaned back in his chair. "Dr. Tond, I hear you've been going through old records." "Yes, sir," Tond replied carefully. "I noticed some files missing." Baligan's smile tightened. "Some records are confidential. You're new here, learn the ropes first. This hospital has its ways." "Sir, I only want to." "That's all." Baligan's voice turned sharp. "You may go." When Ton left, he saw something strange through the half-open door, Dr. Balagan was locking a brown file cabinet. And on its label, in faded ink, were the words Ward 7, Archives. Later that night, F couldn't stop thinking. Something was deeply wrong with the hospital. She noticed how certain doctors never stayed long, transferred suddenly, or gone without farewell. She noticed that the morgue attendant, Boba Connor, never looked anyone in the eye. And she noticed that each time a patient died, a new car appeared in the parking lot, always for senior staff. One night, she gathered her courage and went to the morgue. The smell was sharp, cold, and bitter. Rows of metal drawers lined the walls. Boba Connor was asleep at his desk, snoring softly. She tiptoed around him, shining her torch. Half the drawers were empty. Others were tagged, but one stood open, no tag, no record, nothing. Inside lay a pale figure, half covered. Her heart froze. It was him. Olumo Daniel. But his eyes were open. For a moment, she thought she imagined it. But his lips moved faintly. Help me. F stumbled back, dropping her torch. The light roared across the floor. She wanted to scream but no sound came. The man's mouth opened again, and this time she saw the truth. His body was cold, stiff, lifeless, but his lips still moved. A voice echoed in her mind, not through her ears, "They took my heart." She ran. F didn't sleep that night. Her thoughts ran wild. They took my heart. What did that mean? She remembered how Ton had mentioned missing surgery notes, how certain doctors avoided questions. Then it struck her, organ trade. The next day, she went to confront Ton. But before she could speak, she saw him standing in the corridor, staring at something on the wall, a new notice from the director's office. Dr. Ton Adisa, transferred to Ibadan Central Hospital, effective immediately. He looked at her helplessly. They know. That evening, the rain returned. Thunder rolled over the town like a drumbeat. F stood by the window of Ward 6, watching lightning flash across the sky. In the reflection of the glass, she saw something, a figure standing behind her. She turned sharply. No one. But on the floor, faint footprints led toward Ward 7. She followed. The door was open. Inside, the air shimmered, like heat above a fire. The beds were gone. The room looked different. The walls seemed wider, darker. In the center stood a shadow, the outline of a man. Olumo Daniel. But not as before. His skin glowed faintly, and his eyes were pools of light. He spoke without sound. They broke the covenant. What covenant? She whispered. He lifted his hand, pointing to the floor. The tiles shifted, cracking, revealing a faint symbol carved beneath, a circle of strange marks. F knelt, tracing it with trembling fingers. It was drawn in something dark, dried long ago. Blood. Then his voice filled her mind again. They promised the spirit's life in exchange for wealth. Each life they take feeds the circle. But they grew greedy. They took more than they gave. The spirits are angry. Lightning flashed through the window, and when she looked again, he was gone. Only the faint sound of the monitor beeped once, then silence. Outside, thunder rumbled like a growl. And deep beneath St. Olumo Hospital, something began to stir. That night, sleep did not come to F. Even when she closed her eyes, she could still see the glowing figure, hear that whisper inside her chest. They promised the spirit's life in exchange for wealth. The next morning, she walked into the hospital with heavy steps. Everything looked normal: nurses hurrying, patients coughing, the smell of disinfectant in the air, but she could feel something under the surface, like a dark heartbeat hidden beneath the floor. Thorn was gone. His office was empty, and no one dared to speak about him. When F asked Nurse Ijoma if she had heard from him, Ijoma simply sighed. People come, people go. That's how this place is. Then she leaned closer. You too should be careful, my dear. Don't let curiosity kill you. F nodded but said nothing. She could not forget the cold face in the morgue, or the moving lips that had no breath. She had to find out the truth. That evening, as she passed by the records room, she noticed the door slightly open. A faint light came from inside. She hesitated, then stepped closer. Inside, a man was standing by the file cabinet, the same one Dr. Balogun had locked before. The man turned. It was Boba Connor, the morgue attendant. He froze when he saw her. "Oh, Nurse F. You should not be here." "I could say the same," she replied softly. His eyes darted around the room. Then he sighed, shoulders sagging. "You're like that doctor, aren't you? Always looking for what's better forgotten. Why are you here, Boba Connor? What are you hiding?" He looked at her for a long time, and finally said, "You really want to know?" "Yes." He opened the cabinet. Inside were brown files, dozens of them, each tagged "deceased, no record." "These are the ones who never left," he whispered. "Patients who died, but whose deaths were never reported. Their families never got their bodies. The hospital says they were transferred, but I buried them. Everyone." F felt her knees weaken. Why? Why would anyone do that? He looked down at his hands. Because the hospital is not just a hospital. It's a market. A market? F asked. He nodded slowly. A market for body parts. Doctors remove what they want: hearts, kidneys, eyes, and sell them. They've done it for years. The director started it, with a man called Chief Otamba. They called it the Covenant of Healing. They said it was for the good of the community. But it was for money. Big money. F covered her mouth. Her heart raced. "But why call it a covenant?" she asked. Boba Connor's voice trembled. "Because they didn't only sell organs. They also made a deal with something else. Something not human." F stepped back. "What do you mean?" "The first time they did it," he whispered, "a man died on the table. The doctors panicked. The director said, 'We can't waste him.' They took his heart, but his body refused to rot. For days it stayed fresh, until one night it disappeared from the morgue. Since then, every time they take a heart, they pour its blood into the hole under Ward 7. That's the covenant. Life for wealth." F's breath caught in her throat. "Then Olowo Daniel." "Yes," Boba Connor said. "He was the last one. They took too much. The spirits are angry now. I feel it. Every night, I hear footsteps in the morgue. The drawers opened by themselves. They are coming back. He grabbed her hand suddenly, eyes wild. Don't come here at night again. Leave while you still can. But F couldn't leave. Something in her heart told her she had to stay, not just for herself, but for all those forgotten souls whose names had been wiped away. 2 nights later, the hospital lost power. All the lights went out at once, plunging every ward into darkness. The backup generator refused to start. Nurses rushed up and down the hallways with lanterns. Patients cried in fear. F was in Ward 4, trying to calm an old woman when she heard it, the sound of metal drawers slamming open, one after another, echoing through the walls. Then came the smell, damp earth, old blood, and something else, something cold. She looked toward the corridor. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out again. In the faint glow of her lantern, she saw movement, shadows gliding across the walls, slow and heavy, like people dragging their feet. A scream came from Ward 5. Then another. She ran toward the sound, her heart pounding. When she reached Ward 5, she froze. Every patient was sitting up, eyes wide open, staring at the door of Ward 7. And from that door came a low humming sound, like many voices singing at once, but off-key, broken. "Don't go there," one nurse cried. "It's not human." But F stepped forward anyway. Something stronger than fear pulled her. The door to Ward 7 opened by itself. The humming grew louder. Inside, candles burned on the floor in a perfect circle, the same symbol she had seen before. Blood dripped down the walls, forming shapes that pulsed like veins. And standing in the middle of the circle was Dr. Balogun. His white coat was stained red. In his hands, he held a beating heart. Before him stood 3 men in black suits, faces pale, eyes hollow. They didn't look alive. F gasped. Balogun turned sharply. "Who is there?" He saw her, and for a moment, his face twisted in anger, then fear. "You shouldn't be here, F." "What are you doing?" she whispered. "What is this?" He laughed bitterly. "You wouldn't understand. You think healing is free. You think hospitals survive on prayers. Life must be paid for with life. You're killing people." "They were already dying," he shouted. "I only use what they left behind. Do you know how much good I've done? How many lives my money has saved?" The spirit asked for balance, I gave it. But as he spoke, the candles flickered violently. The air grew thick, swirling around them. The men in suits began to tremble. One of them stepped forward. "You lied to us, Balogun. The covenant is broken. The payment is overdue." Balogun's eyes widened. "No, wait." The ground shook. The blood circle on the floor began to glow. From it rose dozens of pale hands, reaching, grasping, pulling. The dead had come for their hearts. F screamed as Balogun was dragged to his knees. His body twisted, his face contorted, and with a cry that echoed through the hospital, he vanished into the glowing floor. The lights flickered, then went out completely. When F opened her eyes, the room was empty. The circle was gone. Only a faint heartbeat echoed in the silence. The next morning, the hospital was quiet. Too quiet. No one spoke of what happened. The director's office was locked, his car still parked outside, but he was nowhere to be found. Baba Connor refused to come to work. Nurse Ijeoma prayed all day in the chapel. F felt lost. Everything felt like a dream. But that night, she found something on her desk, a small brown envelope. Inside was a letter, written in shaky handwriting. If you are reading this, it means I am gone. You must finish what I started. There is a second covenant, hidden under the old water tank behind the morgue. Break it, and the souls will rest. Turned. He had known all along. F clutched the letter to her chest. The rain started again outside, soft at first, then heavy. She took a lantern, wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, and walked toward the back of the hospital. The ground was muddy, the air thick. The old water tank stood leaning to one side, rusted and covered with weeds. She knelt beside it, digging with her hands. Her fingers struck metal, a small box, sealed with wax and marked with the same strange circle. She hesitated, then broke the seal. Inside lay a black heart-shaped stone, pulsing faintly like it was alive. As she lifted it, a cold wind swept through the yard. The rain stopped. Everything went silent. Then she heard them, hundreds of whispers, rising all around her. Free us! Free us! Her hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. Go in peace, she whispered. You are free. The stone cracked in her palm, releasing a faint blue light that drifted upward like smoke. One by one, the whispers faded, until only the sound of the rain remained. F fell to her knees, sobbing. When she looked up, the sky was clear again, and dawn was breaking over St. Olumo. But deep inside the hospital, something still moved. In the quiet of Ward 7, a single monitor beeped once. Then a voice, soft as wind, whispered. Not all debts are paid. The morning after the storm, the hospital tried to return to normal. Doctors came in, pretending nothing strange had happened. The generator hummed again, lights flickered back to life, and patients lined the corridors. But F could feel it, the air was not the same. The walls seemed to hum softly, like the building itself was breathing. She had freed the trapped souls, or so she thought, yet something deep within her whispered that the evil had only changed shape. That evening, the board called an emergency meeting. All the senior staff gathered in the conference room, men in crisp white coats, women with gold watches, faces calm but eyes sharp. The hospital director was gone, and no one dared to mention his name. In his place sat a new man, Reverend Dr. Cole. He was tall, dark-skinned, and carried himself like a preacher more than a doctor. His voice was smooth and deep, the kind that could calm a crowd or stir a riot. Brothers and sisters, he said with a warm smile, we thank God for preserving this hospital through the storm. But we must face the truth, the devil has entered St. Olumo. And we must cast him out. Heads nodded around the room. Some murmured amen. F sat quietly in a corner, her hands clenched together. Dr. Cole continued, there will be prayers every night. Fasting, too. But first, we must find those who brought darkness into our midst. We must find the guilty. His eyes moved slowly around the table and stopped on her. You, Nurse Efe, he said softly. I heard you were close to Dr. Tond. You were also seen near Ward 7 during the blackout. What were you doing there? F's heart pounded. I was helping a patient, she said quickly. Cole smiled. Helping, or digging? Her eyes widened. What do you mean? He leaned forward. You went behind the morgue. You found something you shouldn't have. Didn't you? The room grew silent. Every eye turned toward her. How do you know that? She whispered. He smiled again, slow, cold. Because I buried it. F froze. He stood. You think you broke the covenant? Foolish girl. That was only the outer seal. The true heart lies beneath this hospital, where the foundation meets the earth. That's where the blood flows. The others gasped. Some crossed themselves. But no one moved. Why are you doing this? She cried. How many more must die? He spread his arms like a preacher before his flock. As many as it takes. Do you think these machines, these lights, this wealth, came from prayers alone? No. The covenant feeds us all. You live because others die. Every hospital needs a sacrifice. That is balance. Balance. F shouted. That's evil. Cole's voice hardened. Evil keeps the doors open. Evil keeps your salary paid. He walked toward her slowly. Now, Nurse F, you will join us. Or you will join them. That night, F ran. She ran out of the hospital, through the rain-soaked streets, until her feet bled. She didn't stop until she reached her mother's house on the edge of the old town. Her mother, Mama Risi, was sitting outside, fanning herself with a piece of cardboard when she saw her daughter burst in, drenched and shaking. Yezu, she cried. What happened to you? F collapsed into her arms. Mama, they're killing people in that hospital. They said it's a covenant. They said it keeps us alive. Her mother's face went pale. Slowly, she stood, her hands trembling. My child, she whispered, you must not speak of such things. That hospital was built on cursed ground. F looked up. What do you mean? Mama Risi's voice dropped to a whisper. Long before you were born, this land was an old burial ground. The white men wanted to build a factory here, but the elders warned them, the dead here were restless. The ground was sacred. They ignored it. They built anyway. Within months, workers started dying. Machines caught fire. The factory closed. Years later, the government gave the land to the church, and the church built a hospital, thinking prayer could silence the dead. But you cannot bury what is already buried. F shivered. So this started before Dr. Baligan, before all of them. Her mother nodded. Evil changes its face, but it never dies. F sat quietly, tears streaming down her face. Mama, what do I do? Her mother hesitated, then said, there is one man who might help, old Prophet Aya. He lives by the river. He knows the language of the dead. If anyone can end this, it's him. The next morning, F walked to the river. The sky was grey, and mist floated over the water like smoke. She found the prophet's hut half hidden among palm trees. It smelled of herbs and rain. Inside, A frail old man sat cross-legged before a pot of burning incense. "I know why you have come," he said before she could speak. His eyes were white, clouded with blindness. "You carry the mark of the covenant. It is in your blood now." Efe froze. "My blood?" He nodded. "When you touched the black heart, you became part of it. The spirits know you. They will not let you rest until the debt is paid." Her lips trembled. "How do I pay it?" He sighed. "You cannot destroy the covenant by fire or blade. You must cleanse it with truth. Only light stronger than greed can break its hold." "I don't understand," she whispered. "You will," he said softly. "Go back. Go beneath. Speak the names of the forgotten. Let the dead be remembered, and the living will be freed." That night, Efe returned to the hospital. It was quiet, almost too quiet. The moon hung low, casting long shadows across the courtyard. She crept inside, down the stairs to the basement. The smell of damp and decay filled the air. Behind the generator room, she found a locked metal door she had never seen before. Rust covered the hinges, but strange marks were carved into it, circles within circles, lines like veins. She whispered a prayer and pushed. The door creaked open. A long tunnel stretched ahead, lit only by the flicker of candles melted to the walls. The air was thick and heavy, and the sound of dripping water echoed in the dark. She walked carefully, heart pounding. The deeper she went, the louder the whispers became, faint at first, then stronger. "Help us. Remember us." Finally, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. In the center stood a stone altar, stained dark with old blood. Around it, countless bones lay scattered, ribs, skulls, spines, each one glowing faintly blue. And behind the altar stood Reverend Cole. He was waiting. "So, you came," he said softly. "Just as the Spirit said you would." Efe's voice trembled. "You can still stop this. We can end it." He shook his head slowly. "You think I want it to end? This covenant made me who I am. It made this hospital great. Without it, everything will crumble." "Then let it crumble," she cried. "No life built on blood will stand forever." He laughed bitterly. "You talk like a child. The world feeds on blood. Even your faith demands sacrifice. You think you are better." Efe stepped forward, tears on her cheeks. "Maybe not. But I choose light." And with that, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small white candle. It was the one prophet Aya had given her, said to carry the prayers of the forgotten. She lit it, and immediately the room shook. The air filled with thousands of voices, cries, wails, songs of sorrow. The candlelight spread, washing over the bones. One by one, they began to dissolve into dust, releasing streams of pale light that rose to the ceiling. Cole screamed. "No. You don't understand. If they go, I go too." The light grew brighter. His face twisted, skin cracking like burnt wood. He reached out to grab her, but his hand turned to ash before it touched her. A great wind tore through the chamber, blowing out every candle except hers. The altar split open, revealing a pit of glowing fire beneath. Efe fell to her knees, clutching the candle. "Rest now," she whispered. "Your pain is over." The light burst outward, filling every corner of the hospital. Above ground, nurses saw the walls tremble, lights flicker, and a sound like thunder rolled through the halls. Patients cried out, then fell silent. And then, peace. When morning came, the hospital was still standing, but something had changed. The air was clear. The smell of blood and rot was gone. The morgue drawers were empty. Every unclaimed body had vanished. Efe sat on the front steps, watching the sunrise. Her face was tired, but calm. A voice behind her said softly, "You did it." She turned, and saw turned. He was dressed in white, smiling faintly. "They are free now," he said. "So am I." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought you were gone." He nodded. "I am. But I came to thank you." He reached out, touched her shoulder, and vanished like smoke in the morning light. Efe sat there a long time, listening to the birds, the city waking up, and the sound of distant laughter from the children playing down the road. For the first time, the hospital felt truly alive. But deep under the ground, beneath the cracked altar, something faintly pulsed, a single heartbeat, soft but steady. Because evil, once buried, never truly dies. It only sleeps. Dawn broke over St. Olumo Hospital like a sigh of relief. For the first time in many months, the air was not heavy with fear. No shadows lingered behind the wards, and no whispers echoed from the mortuary. The hospital stood quiet, wounded but alive, like an old tree that had survived the storm. Weeks later, St. Olumo Hospital reopened under new management. The government renamed it the New Olumo General Hospital, promising transparency and compassion. But the locals still called it by its old name, the Broken Ward. They said that at night, if you walked near the emergency wing, you could still hear faint voices singing, a lullaby, soft and sorrowful, as though the spirits were keeping watch. Children grew. The town changed. But the story of the broken hospital ward lived on, told in whispers and fireside tales. They said that every evil done for greed will one day be seen by the light. They said that every life taken unjustly becomes a voice in the wind. And they said that hospitals, those sacred places between life and death, remember everything. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, when nurses made their rounds and the ward was still, the lights in Ward 7 would glow just a little brighter, as though unseen eyes were watching, making sure no hand of greed would ever touch that place again. Please let us know where you are watching from, leave a comment below, we love to hear from you. Please like the video and share with your family and friends. Please also subscribe to this channel so we can bring more videos to you. Thanks for being part of us.